Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John. In today's video I continue my ongoing series of videos relating to Monopoly Event's upcoming convention For the Love of Horror, which is going to be in October 2024 in Manchester, UK. So come along with me, as in this video I want to talk a little bit about the one and the only Lin Shaye. To declare my interest right up front, I am really excited to meet Lin Shaye. Out of all the guests, 20 at the time of recording I'm planning to meet, she is arguably top of the list along with Bill Moseley. I am so excited to meet Lin Shaye. She has got a massive filmography, over 90 films at the time of recording, and 30 plus of them have been horror movies. She has been around for so long and she has had her toe in the pool of so many cool iconic moments in movies and horror that to dismiss her as simply the woman from Insidious, it's just crazy. So what I thought I would do is, rather than just sit here and talk a lot about Elise from Insidious, I want to go backwards in time, and rather than just give you 2 or 3 films that are my recommendations, I'm going to throw a good number at you. I'm not going to give you huge plot summaries or huge character arcs or anything like that, but these are films that Lin Shaye may have just cameoed in, Lin Shaye may have had a prominent role in, but I recommend all of them because, as I say, I've yet to see a film where I've watched it and Lin Shaye has been bad. I'm not saying she's not been in bad films, but she has never delivered a bad performance, and she's really cool in real life. Every documentary, every Blu-ray extra, she's always there. She's always flying the flag of horror, and I get the impression from what I see that she is genuinely happy and understands her place in the world of horror, and the fact that it was the fans who got her to the gig. So she always comes across as a really positive force within the horror universe. So I'm really excited. But anyway, let's get on with it. The earliest appearance that I have seen of Lin Shaye's was from 1982's Alone in the Dark. It has nothing to do with the game franchise, and in fact is a really good cult classic slasher horror film. It is about a psychiatric hospital which its very worst patients are held up on the top floor, and using electricity to lock them in if they get too close to motion sensors enables them to have basically a barless prison up on the top floor, until there's a power cut. Lin Shaye makes a couple of quick appearances, but very memorable appearances, in that when a new doctor comes to the hospital at the start of the film to meet Donald Pleasance's character, he meets the receptionist, and the receptionist is played by Lin Shaye, and he asks very politely, "May I see the doctor?" To which she says, "I'm sorry, no, you can't see the doctor." And he says, "Well, is he in an appointment?" And she says, "No, he's not in an appointment." "Well, is he free?" "Oh, yes, he's free." "Well, can I see him then?" "No, you can't." "Well, why?" "Because he's invisible." And then you quickly realise that Lin Shaye is actually playing one of the inmates from the psychiatric hospital. It's a very quick, very funny cameo. She's in the film in a couple more scenes, but it's really cool just to see her right there and then. Her real life brother, as silly as it is to say that, but some people get confused, her real life brother Robert Shaye was the creator, executive driving force behind New Line Cinema, and from what I've read and seen, he tended to put her in as many films as possible, A, because it was his sister, and B, she wanted a career, and C, she was a little bit of a good luck charm. So Alone in the Dark, real quick and simple. It's a great film in general, well worth watching, but yeah, that's a nice little appearance from Lin Shaye. 2 years later, and Lin Shaye would make another appearance, a very quick fleeting cameo again, but would make another appearance in a iconic movie, little remembered film for maybe for some, but celebrating its 40th anniversary, Nightmare on Elm Street. Lin Shaye is the teacher in the scene where Nancy is falling asleep and she is talking away, and she has a little bit of a role, but it's nothing more than a cameo. But again, really cool to see Lin Shaye. She would reappear in the Nightmare on Elm Street series 10 years later for the 10th anniversary of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, or A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7, as another very small cameo, but one that always makes me smile, in that Heather Langenkamp's son, when he is taken into the hospital and is being checked on, she plays the, quote, nurse with drugs, who is trying to, against the mother's wishes, without any consent or any legalities to allow this to happen, is trying to persuade the little boy to take drugs. She's there with a big smile on her face. It's a real quick blink and you'll miss it cameo, but once again, 3 for 3 New Line Cinema classics, and there she was. That same year, 1994, Lin Shaye made another appearance in a New Line Cinema film. Now, this is a horror video, this is about For the Love of Horror, but it's my video, so I don't care, I'm going to say what I want. One of my favourite Lin Shaye appearances, cameos, is in Dumb and Dumber. At the beginning of the movie, when they are taking the dogs, she plays the iconic character of Mrs. Noogleborn or Mrs. Noogieborn. I can't quite remember because I can never remember which way it is. She is the furious lady whose the dogs are being delivered to, and they're all covered in hot sauce and mustard and the hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. She is the very angry lady who is not happy at all about the state that her dogs have been delivered in. It's not horror, but it's great because when you know she's there, it's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme image of the pointing at the screen saying, there she is. Getting back to being a bit more serious and focusing on horror, 2003's Dead End was a massive role for Lin Shaye. Not only was she one of the main central characters, she was also working alongside another horror icon, Twin Peaks and Jeepers Creepers 2's own Ray Wise. The film is a very early 2000s movie, really good. It's in the shadow of that kind of urban legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer era, in which a family, so the parents, the mum and dad, 2 teenage children and the girl's boyfriend are driving on Christmas Eve on the road to a Christmas party at Lin Shaye's mother's house. They have gone every year, it's the 20th year. This is a dysfunctional family, there are secrets within the family, some things aren't quite true, and they see a hitchhiker, a lady in white carrying a baby. Against the wishes of most of the people in the car, they take the lady into the car, and not only is it discovered that there is something really wrong with this woman, but also her baby is dead. So they slam the brakes, jump out the car, and one by one, supernatural forces start to stalk and take out this family. Now, Lin Shaye plays a fantastically good character. Lin Shaye does this thing, and she'll do it many times again after this, where she can play completely real, totally like mother next door, 100% exactly what you'd expect in an American mom, and then something happens and she can just dial it up like that to just totally crazy. So mild spoilers, but when one of the children are dispatched, one of the 3 children are dispatched, Lin Shaye essentially loses her mind. And having seen one of her children dead in the road as a result of this supernatural situation, she is totally crazy in the back. And the father and the daughter are trying to figure out what the hell to do. They're driving and they're talking about the fact that she's just snapped, she's gone mad, and she leans forward, and it's that wonderful where she's big smiles, like her brain has regressed back to a situation where, does she know her son's dead? Is her mind fractured or something like that? And she comes up with this big smile and she goes, everything's going to be fine, everything's great, look, I've done a picture of my son. And she leans forward and shows this picture that she's drawn, which is like a stick person, this eviscerated stick person. And it is so funny. It's got a real dark sense of humour, this film, and Lin Shaye capitalises on it. I won't say any more about the film, it's really good, strong recommend. The last minute, arguably, it was 2003, so it did the ending that all horror films in 2003 seem to be doing, so enjoy it all the way up until the end. Don't expect the last minute to be like, oh my god, but Lin Shaye is spectacular in that film. Jumping to 2005 now, and Lin Shaye worked alongside the legendary Robert Englund on 2001 Maniacs. This film is just crazy. Lin Shaye, Robert Englund, they are chewing the set, they are just ripping the furniture, they are insane. But one of the things I think is really cool, because this film is madcap, and I'm not going to go into it in any great detail at this point, but if you know, you know. This thing pushes the envelope as far as it can. It's not particularly gory, but it has some fantastically macabre moments. But Lin Shaye, as an actress, to hold her own toe to toe, nose to nose with Robert Englund as their husband and wife couple. I mean, Robert Englund is a trained thespian, legendary character, not just for Freddy Krueger, but for everything else he's done as well. You know, his Phantom, etc. He can play big, bold, crazy characters, and I think it can be very easy to be eclipsed and dwarfed by the presence of Robert Englund. Not true with Lin Shaye. She is really good in that film. Strong recommend. Moving to 2010, this is arguably when Lin Shaye achieved her most recognisable role with Elise in Insidious. In the first film, Lin Shaye appears about 2/3 of the way in, and if we're being nice about it, because it is fantastic, but she serves more as the plot dump, the narrative creator. She's the one who shows up, explains everything that's going on, and exactly what we need to do to fix it. She has a fantastic seance scene, some really iconic moments, all the great lines. She is fantastic, and spoilers, but the film is 14 years old. You get the surprise that she is actually killed at the end of Insidious 1. So I always, because it's James Wan and Lee Whannell, I always like to give comparisons between Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell, in that I would argue the best thing in the Insidious franchise was Lin Shaye, the best thing in the Saw franchise was Tobin Bell, and yet both these writers and directors teams killed their main best character as early as possible in the franchise, and I just like that little mirror image. Anyway, she did return for Insidious 2. She returned once again as Elise, the dead Elise, the ghost of Elise, who, having gone to the afterlife, became aware of a problem involving Dalton and his family and had to come back from the afterlife through the further to provide help and support. Again, Insidious 2 is a great film, but just for Lin Shaye, her appearance is memorable, but it's relatively small, and again, she shows up to do much the same task. Explain what's going on, where are we going, how are we going to fix it, and then she kind of falls by the wayside as the film goes on. Because the trouble is, when your character's dead and a ghost, what can they do? So with Insidious 2 effectively ending the story with the bride in black being vanquished and Elise being in the afterlife, there was a lot of raised eyebrows when Insidious 3 was announced. What are we going to do? The answer was the inevitable prequel. Now, I really enjoy a prequel. I haven't got a problem with prequels, but I understand people have negative connotations when they talk about the prequel. But in this instance, I think it really worked. Lin Shaye's Elise was a character that had a lot of mystery around it. She appeared with all the knowledge, all the confidence, all the powers, all the abilities, but no time was ever really given to explain who on earth she actually was. This was a character with a history, and we find out in the first film it spans at least 25 years of supernatural issues, so why not explore that? But we went in a different angle, and the reason that I really like Insidious 3 and 4 is because it puts the focus more on the character of Lin Shaye, and I'm not going to say the ghosts are in the background, because they're not. They're very much front and centre. It's got plenty of scares, arguably not as good as the first two when it comes to jump scares and even the ghosts, but the trouble is, when you start on a high, you can only really go in one direction. So I really appreciate the fact that in Insidious 3, so much time is given to develop Elise's character from a broken, heartbroken widow whose husband has just committed suicide as a result of depression. She uses her powers to venture into the further, even though she knows you categorically should not do that, but she's so grief-stricken she wants to go and find her husband to speak to him, just to know he was okay and understand why he did what he did. But instead, she is attacked by the bride in black, which sets up the ongoing feud between the two. So when we meet Elise at the beginning of Insidious 3, she refuses to help people. She is not the smiley, helpful, I'm coming in to help you kind of situation. She wants nothing to do with it. The curtains are closed, the doors are locked, she has no interest. So when a father shows up at the door saying that his daughter is being haunted and issues are happening in a high-rise apartment, she says no. And it's really interesting and a really enjoyable experience to go on the ride, to see how Elise will become that confident person, how she goes from having nothing, lost everybody, to finding the ghost squad that we know and love from Insidious 1 and 2, to creating those friendships, to standing up and rising up to become that confident character that we know, is really well done in Insidious 3, and I really enjoy it. It's a really good recommend, Insidious 3. Insidious 4 sometimes gets a little bit of a bad rap of being the black sheep in the Insidious franchise, and I totally disagree with that assessment. From my own perspective, Insidious 4 The Last Key is, for Lin Shaye, her character, the best of all five when it comes to her character. I really enjoy Insidious 4. When the film came out, I know that there was problems behind the scenes. What we saw in the trailer didn't get to the movie, so I'm fully aware that this was a troubled production when we got to the cinema in 2010. 2018. But the difference is that having stood ground with her demons, having addressed her past and stood tall and become the great Elise that we know with her little team and all this kind of stuff, we are given a situation which is deeply personal to her. It's not a case that she has to deal with simply because she's getting paid or because her moral compass wants to do it. She actually has to deal with a very personal case, which is her family home being haunted. And in going back to her family home, we get some fantastic flashbacks and insight into the very dark upbringing of Elise's character and why for many years she refused to use her gifts, and if she used her gifts, what was the impact for the town, for her father, her alcoholic father who ran the local prison. Her powers, mild spoilers, her powers may or may not have been responsible for unleashing certain creatures that killed her mother. There's lots of little points that kind of make you realise this is a fully rounded character. This isn't just like a joke character. Elise has now become the figurehead of our franchise, and we're going to give her a situation that is deeply personal, and it's a new layer to Elise. Now, I think The Last Key's got some fantastic scares, got some fantastic moments, it's got a good bit of comedy in it, it's got a really, really good, in my opinion, swerve, in that the film almost manipulates your expectations to make you think one thing and then changes about a third of the way through. But that again also completely alters Elise's character in another direction. We get to meet her brother, we get to see her nieces, so we get to see a whole family that Elise has never spoken about in any of the other films, presumably because she wants to protect them or presumably because they were disconnected. We get to understand what it's like to be the brother of a girl with all these gifts and the damage that can have on the relationship. I don't want to make this sound like a soap opera, but it genuinely spends a lot of time actually fleshing out Elise into the character she is, and I really enjoy it. And it's got some really good jump scares. It's got a couple of really good scares. The main monster, the demon, the key demon, the throat key neck demon, yeah, okay, it's a little thin on the ground. The ending, the very neat ending, is a little too clean, but at the same time, if you just want to see Lin Shaye in arguably her most prominent role, her working hard, acting hard, delivering good jump scares, being an ass-kicking villain, ass-kicking hero yet again, this is as good as it gets when it comes to Insidious: The Last Key. I'm getting Lin Shaye to sign it. I think it's a great film. If you haven't watched it in a long time, I strongly recommend you give it another look. Before I jump onto a couple of the other films that Lin Shaye is in that I want to mention, I do just want to touch upon Insidious 5 or Insidious: The Red Door. Now, I have to be honest and say that Insidious: The Red Door is not a bad film, but it is not a good film either. And just to go through this in a little bit of detail, Lin Shaye's appearance is two scenes, not even two scenes, a scene and a screen on a laptop that lasts about 15 seconds. And frankly, if I can get my soapbox out for a moment, I was bitterly disappointed by how much Lin Shaye was not in this film. And the annoying thing was, she's on all the advertising, she was in all the interviews, she is ever loyal, flying that flag. She was on every red carpet meeting, every social media channel, TikToking, doing all this kind of stuff, saying, oh, go see the new Insidious. We go to see the new Insidious blind, and she's in it for literally about 47 seconds. And I'm like, the annoying thing is the franchise had been developing her character. So in 1, she's kind of a passing character. In 2, there's a little bit more. In 3, we flesh her out. And in 4, she is our main title character. She is our centerpiece in this franchise. Now, I knew because of the time jump back to Insidious 5 being a sequel to 2, she was going to be dead. But it was one of those where I thought, if you're going to bring them back, you've got to bring them back properly. And the way that Lin Shaye just... I'm sorry to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but it's been out a couple of years now. It's literally an Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's literally Return of the Jedi, this ending. She appears randomly in the street as a ghost to talk to Josh's character, and then that's it, credits roll. Now, I understand, I don't want to get too much into this because this isn't that kind of video. I understand that the director rewrote some of the script. He was the producer, he was the star of the film, he wrote it more so he had more scenes, he sang the theme tune, he did all kinds of things to to manipulate the film to make it more about him and his character. Rightly or wrongly is your opinion. I would say wrongly. So I think that Lin Shaye's character was heavily excised out of the movie, and I do intend to actually ask her about it if the opportunity presents itself, because I'm really curious as to how such an iconic character of Elise and Lin Shaye, the icon of the franchise, could have such a small role. Away from the Insidious franchise, she did make memorable appearances in both Ouija movies, and whilst the first one isn't great, Ouija Origin of Evil I think is actually a really good film, and she makes a quick but memorable cameo in both of those, so I do recommend checking those out. She also makes a memorable but short appearance in The Grudge, not the original but the 2020 Grudge. She has a very fantastic scene with a kitchen knife and carrots, and that's all I'm going to say on that scene. But again, whether you like or hate that film, Lin Shaye delivers her all in that and makes yet another memorable appearance. Another film I do want to bring to people's attention is a 2020 movie that I don't want to say it's a forgotten film, I don't want to say it's a classic because I don't think it is a classic, but it is an enjoyable experience, which was 2020's The Call. Lin Shaye plays the character of Edith, who is involved in a car accident, and her husband, played by Tobin Bell, sets out to punish those responsible by putting them in his house and one by one making them face their fears and face a number of problems. The film is it's very memorable in that it's Tobin Bell and Lin Shaye in the same film, Jigsaw and Elise in the same film. It's got some great set pieces. Tobin Bell is essentially just Jigsaw, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. He sets the table, he sets the tone, he sets the deal, this is what you're doing. But Lin Shaye plays, I don't want to say she plays the main monster, but she is not a nice lady in that film, and the iconography of her face and the way she looks is really pretty twisted and pretty cool. So it was quite fun to see this little horror film that featured both those guys together. So I would recommend checking that out if you are a Lin Shaye and a Tobin Bell fan. To round off my Lin Shaye video, I wanted to take a sidestep away from movies and move into the world of gaming. Supermassive Games developed a game which is fantastic called The Quarry, and Lin Shaye, along with Lance Henriksen, David Arquette, to name a couple, all make appearances as characters within this game. It is a narrative-based game. It's not a Sonic or a Call of Duty. It is almost you are playing, you are watching a film unfold, but you are actively participating as the characters. You are moving around. You will jump around from different characters, and your actions and your instincts and your decisions will change the outcome of the game. So it's a game where everyone can die, no one can die. You can kill somebody else, they can't kill you. Everyone turns into a monster, everything happens. You can spend the whole game getting all the way to the end looking after everybody, and then in 1 second you blow everybody up. Until Dawn, The Dark Pictures, it's become a real sub-genre in gaming right now, and Lin Shaye as the mother character of the sadistic murderous family, Ted Raimi as well, to name another one, is in this game. She makes such a memorable appearance. It was really cool to see Lin Shaye in something different. It's difficult to explain it without spoiling it and going through it, but I strongly recommend The Quarry for horror fans, even if you're not a major horror fan. A gaming fan, I should say. If you are friends with somebody who has a PlayStation or an Xbox and they have The Quarry downloaded, or they can get it for free, you can select an option just to let the film unfold, and you just press a couple of buttons to change the direction as you go along. You don't have to play it all the way. So again, I really recommend Lin Shaye's in The Quarry. She's great in that, but she's surrounded by a fantastic cast. I'll give you a mild spoiler, because the game can be changed in many different ways. She showed up, she's right on the cover, she's really prevalent on the cover. She showed up about 2/3 of the way into the game when it's all kicking off, when some people are dead, some people are werewolves, some people are this, some people are that, and she shows up as this kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque mother, head of the family kind of character, and she wants to kill and murder and butcher, and I'm trying really hard, I'm taking it in, it's like, oh my god, there's Lin Shaye finally here, and I accidentally blew her head off with a shotgun in about 12 seconds. I was like, oh my god, that not that I want to harm Lin Shaye in any way, but that was a really cool moment to be playing this game, to be really excited that, oh yeah, great, finally Lin Shaye's there, she's acting opposite Ted Raimi, she's acting opposite Lance Henriksen and David Arquette, and then bang, I accidentally blew her head off, and it's kind of like, Whoops. So I think that's going to do it for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that there's been a few surprises in this one. Without a doubt, if you are unfamiliar with Lin Shaye or you have a passing enjoyment of films which she's in, I strongly recommend the Insidious franchise. My personal choice for the best Lin Shaye Insidious movie is Insidious: The Last Key, but I understand why people are not big fans of it. Outside of that, I would also recommend watching Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Nightmare on Elm Street. Why not? It's the 40th anniversary of Nightmare on Elm Street. Why not have a rewatch and enjoy the fact that there's Lin Shaye? I also do recommend Dead End and 2001 Maniacs. She's great in both roles, and if you can get your hands on a copy, or you've got a friend who's willing to lend it you, or you want to have an evening experience, strongly recommend having a go on The Quarry. You can probably sit and finish that game in about 3 or 4 hours, so it gives you a good through. But I also am going to recommend The Call as well. I know I didn't talk too much about it because it's a film that it has to unravel, but I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was something a bit different. Tobin Bell was firing on all cylinders. Lin Shaye was fantastic. You just can't go wrong with those kind of choices in acting. If you're new and this is the first time you watched it, I do strongly recommend having a look at my playlist after. I am aiming to do at least some video on all the people I'm meeting. For the Love of Horror this year, at the time of recording, has 35 guests, and I'm currently scheduled to meet 20. So hopefully I can do all 20 videos. That might go up though. I've got a film on the way, which I won't comment on what it is, but that might increase my meet and greets from 20 people to 23 people. I am super excited to meet Lin Shaye. Lin Shaye is signing autographs. She's doing her own individual photo. She's also doing a photo with Tom Fitzpatrick, who plays the bride in black, so you can get a double shoot. He's in costume, she is not. I've elected to get just a picture directly with Lin Shaye. Whilst I am going to get the bride in black photo as well, I wanted a nice picture with Lin Shaye because I do really like Lin Shaye. And hell, watch Dumb and Dumber as well, just so you can see her at the beginning as well. But really excited, really impressed with For the Love of Horror. I cannot overestimate how happy I am that Lin Shaye is going to be there. I think she's going to be really popular on the day, so I'm going to try and get to her as quickly as possible. But roll on October. So until next time, stay scared.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.